Hi guys, I'm Avni and welcome back to the logical reasoning section of the videos on our channel. I hope you enjoyed the last two videos in which we discussed alphabet and you're practicing your heart out for preparing for logical reasoning for Bank PO. In this video, in this particular episode, we are going to be discussing more problems in alphabet. We have so far solved 8 of them, 8 variants, and in this video we're going to be solving 4 more so that you get a better perspective and you're able to understand the patterns a little more. So let's start. Hello, welcome back to Avni's Classroom. If you've been watching and following all of our episodes and all the questions we solved in them properly, then you're probably really good at alphabet logical reasoning by now. And you've probably started identifying patterns, etc. So, our next question that we're going to be covering in this episode goes something like this. It might just sound very familiar. 4 of the following 5 pairs are alike in a certain way and so form a group. Which is the one that does not belong to the group? Odd one out. And these are our options. So for this, we have solved a similar question in our first episode for logical reasoning for the alphabet. Because we did, I also told you how to approach this particular question. So I have a group of people here in this room. Their mics are muted, so you might not be able to hear them. But they're going to guide me as to how to solve this question. Let's make it a little more interactive. So here's Rajesh, who is giving us the first hint. So I discussed it with him before also. The first thing that he wants us to see is, in our first option, R is the first letter in this particular part. And here it's the last letter. Okay, let's go around checking that. W is the first letter, W is the last letter, great. S is the first letter and it's not the last letter. This might be the odd one out. Let's go further. C is the first letter. Oh, okay. So this is not how we look at the problem. Okay, so there's I and C, there's C and I, right? Both the middle letters are somewhere in the middle here. There's I and N. So let's say they're, okay, so both of these letters are going to be covered in the second last and second third. Okay, I and C middle, मतलब second and third are second last and second third. Okay, I and N second and third are second last and second third. Okay, M and A not exactly. This could be the odd one out. O and U not exactly. So okay, this is not the right way to approach this problem. Right, we've got another answer, which is something that we will talk about before I address the annoyance in many of the people who are watching this video, because they have watched our previous video very carefully, and in our previous video I talked about how you need to compare all the letters here with the letters here, not identifying any pattern but checking whether all the letters here are present here or not, and that should have been our first way to solve the problem. Let's go with this. RICE and RICE. Okay. Wings. WINGS. I know it's annoying, but we'll anyway go from first to the last. I know we all know the answer, but whatever. SMART. 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 COUSIN. COUSIN. Okay. BRAKE and BRAKF. This should have been our first way. So this particular option is the odd one out. I mean, it's very important that you address the very obvious things first and then go on finding the patterns. This is one lesson that I wanted to give, so all of these extended approaches, but I know we have all grown smart, so all of the whole procedure didn't make any sense. So always look for the first section and the second section and check whether there are similarities, or there are same number of letters and similar letters, identical letters actually. Okay, so we've solved our first problem for this episode. Let's go on to the second one. Moving further, we've got 2 similar kinds of questions whose options I've written on the board. But the language in which both of these questions are asked is different. So the approach can change accordingly. So I'll read out the question for the first one. 4 of the following 5 are alike in a certain way. In the bracket, it says based on their position of alphabet in English alphabetical series. and hence they form a group. Which is the one that does not belong to that group? So yeah, obviously we're talking about the odd one out, but now the question has in it the whole idea of this being dependent on the position. So you're gonna refer to that chart, obviously. Let's start. Let's choose an element. Let's say EIH. Okay. So we've got E, we've got I, and we've got H. So let's say E is N. So E to I is 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 4. And then you subtract 1. Just like how we used to write all the formulae, right? So let's place it like this. This is E, I and H. So we have a formula for that. Now, KON. K-O-N. K plus 4 minus 2. Right? We've got a formula. Then we go for TXV. I won't be explaining this in detail because I've done that already and probably you ace it by now and you might think I'm extending it too much, but it's important that you focus on this particular way of solving this problem because this one might seem similar, but we'll have to do a lot of thinking for this problem. So let's revise our basics for this one and then we'll move on to the next one. So T, V, X and V, right? N, 4 and minus 2. So it's following the same rule. So we've got 3 different options in which this seems to be the odd one out. Let's go with LPN, LPN, again following the same rule, and BFD. If we check it, B, F and D, again following the same rule. It's basically B plus F and D and there's always one letter in between all 3 letters. So it's an obvious pattern and all of them are following. Only EIH is not following. So that's the odd one out. That's very obvious. And which is the correct answer. Moving on to our next question. I'll read it out very clearly and we'll see how we approach this. Because, let me first read it out and then we'll discuss it. It says 4 of the following 5 are alike in a certain way based on a particular pattern and hence form a group. Which of the following does not belong to that group? Okay, so let's go. Now, look at the question. Now, you're supposed to find the odd one out. The first approach, for the first time whenever I saw this question, for me was that MON is one of those combination of groups that forms a series, right? M, N and O. So, this is like one complete series. It falls under that category. But other elements, they don't. So when I see AGD, A is here, G is here, D is here. They're not following any series. LRO, LRO, not following any series, nothing. So this becomes an obvious answer for me, MON. And it will click because MON, whenever you keep repeating the letters in your head, no, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P. So somewhere in your subconscious, this will click. And you will think that this is the right answer. Although I want to tell you that it's not. This is not the wrong approach of solving this question, but you also need to focus on the language of the question. Yes, it is very obvious that you have to find the odd one out, but I'll repeat the question again for you and then we'll compare how this was different from this. Alright? So 4 of the following 5 are alike in a certain way based on a particular pattern and hence form a group. Which of the following does not belong to the group? In the question, they have mentioned that there is a pattern that is being followed and which one does not follow the pattern. And by pattern, it means positioning of the elements and the kind of formula it follows while we walk through it. So let's have a look at a different approach to this. So I've been showing you all of these comparisons on this particular chart. Let's rather try writing numbers there. I mean, that's one of the ways that many people prefer to do. So let's have a look at that as well. So that, I mean, I like doing it that way, but we could try. So M is 13. Then we've got O, which is 15, and N is 14. So this is the position of the letters in the alphabet. Then we have got A, G and D. So we'll write them down. A is 1, then we've got 7, and then we've got D 4. Excuse me. LRO 12, 18 and 15. And we've got DHF 4, 8, 6, PUR 16, 21, 18. Alright, so now let's try solving it with the numbers that we have here. Okay, so the difference between each number here is, so 13, 15 and 14. If we are supposed to do it, you go from here to here and then here to here, right? So the difference, ultimate difference would be 13, 14, 15. They've got 1 letter difference. If you observe it here on the chart, so they've got a 1 letter difference. They're following a pattern. Yes, they're skipping from 13, 14 and then 13, 15 and then they're going to 14. But they've got a 1 letter difference. If you notice it here, there's a 3 letter difference. 4 minus 1 is 3 and 7 minus 4 is again 3. So 3 letter difference. You see it on the chart, A, G, D. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can also call it 2 letter difference. I prefer subtracting this from this so that it gets a bit quicker. But the letter difference is 2 and the gaps are 3. So that's how it goes. So they are equal in number, right? So this particular element is at the center. D is at the center. Now you go about 12, 18 and 15. They've got 3 ka difference. 15 minus 12 is 3. 18 minus 15 is again 3. Then you go for D, H, F and you see 4 difference, right? 2 difference, I'm sorry. 6 minus 4 is 2 and 8 minus 6 is again 2. And you go and check it on the chart if you want to, or if you get good with numbers and writing them down here, it also works. But just check it once, like for MON you just checked it once, like how it's working, and then you write down the numbers and then you keep calculating, right? All you have to do is subtract this from this and this from this. That's it. Now you go and look at PUR. All of these were following the same pattern, which means the difference between this and this element and this element was same. They were similar, identical. Now you go and look at this particular last group. Let's hope this gets us to our right answer. 21 minus 18 equals to 3 and 18 minus 16 equals to 2. So 3 is not equal to 2, which means this one is the odd one out. And you check it here. So you'll come to know P is 16, U is this, and then we've got R. So this has a difference of 2 or 1 element, and this has a difference of 2 elements. So there's an asymmetry. So this does not follow the pattern, and PUR is the right answer, not MON. Let's move on to our next question. So this is the last question in our series of logical reasoning for the alphabet, and it is a little tricky. This is the 12th question that we're solving, and hopefully now you've gotten a lot better at solving all of these problems. So it might become a little difficult to solve this problem. Why am I saying this? I'll explain at the end of this video. So I'll read out the question. 4 of the following 5 are alike in a certain way based on the English alphabet series, which is this, and hence form a group. Okay, which is the one that does not belong to the group if the English alphabetical series is broken into 2 equal halves. That is, the first 13 alphabet are clubbed together and the last 13 alphabets are clubbed separately. This is a really big problem that Indian examinations papers do not consider. I want to tell it to you again that this whole thing is an alphabet and all of these are letters. Although you'll find it in the question that they say alphabets and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's a problem. You really need to solve that. Anyway, so this is what the question meant. The 13 letters or alphabets as per the question are clubbed together from A to M, and the other are clubbed together. That's the only thing that's given in the question, by the way. And you have to identify the odd one out. So let's get started, right? First option, or let's just choose MA because it sounds really good. Third, MA. Let's go and look for what is the difference between. So M and A. Now we know that this is a whole different set of the alphabet, and this is a completely different set of the alphabet. So my first approach after solving all of these questions to solve this one was A is the first letter and M is the last, first letter from the last. So first from the beginning, first from the last. Make sense? Yeah. I choose a different marker. Then you go and check for CK. So this is the third element from the last, and this. So now first we used to do 26 minus n plus 1, right? Now we are going to be doing 13 minus n plus 1, which will here equal to 3 for K, which is equivalent to what's for C. So we do not have any problem there. Now we've got L and B. So L, so there's a change, okay? We need to notice two things here. M and A, it was starting with the last and then there was the first letter, and C and K, it was starting with the first and then the last, and then L and B, it's starting with the last and the first, and there's two difference. So basically now we know that it's not dependent on the arrangement of the letters in the group. Whichever comes first, it's okay. So L coming here second, B coming here second. It's great. S and U, you've got 1. Now we'll be writing it from 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Then you've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Right? And you compare S and U. S is 6, U is 13 minus 8 plus 1, which again is 6. So both of them are right on track. F and H, you go 1 to 6 and you come from 13 to, so it's again 13 minus 8 plus 1, which equals 6. Now we have a problem because we check for all the patterns and they are all the same. So we cannot find the odd one out. When we were doing all of this, because we've been practicing so much with the hard problems, we kind of forgot one really obvious solution to this problem, which was that all other elements except for S and U belong to the first 13 elements. F and H, first group, M and A, first group, CK, first group, LB, first group. And this was the only group that did not belong to that particular letter. So it's just that very obvious solutions might not come into your head while you keep solving a lot of papers. So you always need to find the right approach, the right pattern. So when I looked and when I separated these two, it couldn't be 13 and 13. It could be, let's say 16 and 10. 16 and 10. The first thing that I should always look out for should be whether all the groups are belonging to a particular set of elements or not. So answer here is SU. And that was our last tricky question that we solved. So hopefully you're going to get better at this. As much practice as you do, it's only going to make you better. You are going to be finding your own way of solving, because logical reasoning is very tricky, right? It depends on the way you want to do it. It depends on the kind of approach you've been taking since as you were a kid. It is not very obvious, so you won't always have an obvious answer for everything, but you can always try out new stuff. So keep digging and keep experimenting with your brain, and keep coming up with new solutions. And that's all for today. Thanks. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. We've so far covered 12 different questions for logical reasoning for alphabet series, and this was our last edition. If you've got any queries or any questions regarding anything that we've discussed in these videos, please feel free to comment below. And if you've got any new topics in mind that you want us to cover, or the kinds of questions that you're having trouble with, just comment on the video below and we will get back to you. Also, there are a few PDFs that you can find in the link that's in the description, which will give you more questions to practice and become better at this. So thank you so much for staying tuned, and let's get started with some other sections for logical reasoning in our next videos. Thank you.